Now let's take a look at the platform of another party standing in the general election, the Liberal Party, not to be confused with the Liberal Democrats. Pay attention now. The Liberal Party traces its roots back to 1859, but was founded in its current form in 1989 by those opposed to the creation of the Liberal Democrats. It's got around 2,500 Twitter followers, not quite up with Kardashian there, and campaigns for every citizen to possess liberty, property and security. The party seeks withdrawal from the European Union and campaigned for a leave vote in last year's referendum. It supports spending 0.7% of national income on overseas aid and would negotiate the cancellation of third world debt. It also calls for the wider use of Esperanto as a language for all governments and people who wish to use it. So let's now go and speak to the man who represents the Liberal Party. Steve Radford joins us now. Steve Radford, thank you for that. When we think of Liberal Party, we tend to think of the 19th century, of the Liberal Party of Gladstone, which came out of the Whigs. What are the historic and intellectual antecedents for your Liberal Party?
Well, I think it's a lot of the Gladstone principles of free trade, simplified taxation, encouraging business are as true and valid and useful for the United Kingdom looking ahead today as it was so many years ago.
Now, you call yourselves the real Liberals and not the Lib Dems. Why aren't the Liberal Democrats, which you can draw a line from them back to Mr. Gladstone as well, why aren't they real Liberals?
Well, I think there's a mixed bag, and I think there's some colleagues in the Liberal Democrats who I would feel comfortably Liberals. There's others who are openly in this election campaigning on the basis they want a new centre party that's not particularly liberal, probably have Tony Blair as its leader, and they just want centre politics and pro-European centralisation. And I think if we be quite blunt about it, the main difference between the Liberal Party and the Liberal Democrats, the Liberal Party is looking to Britain being a global player, a sovereign country looking out to the world, whilst the Liberal Democrats are really hankering back to sabotage Brexit, and they want a more centralised Europe and would have signed up for the euro and losing control of our economy even more than currently. So there's a clear watershed.
OK, well, as you know, we've got Nick Clegg, former leader of the Liberal Democrats here. What do you say to that?
Well, I think, is it Steve, is it?
Yes, Steve.
I think Steve should join the Conservatives. I mean, I don't see that. I'm not saying that facetiously. Everything he said is mainstream Conservative thinking. Out of the European Union, low tax, pro-enterprise, anti-state. I mean, it's a perfectly venerable tradition in British politics. It's not what I fully share, obviously, but it's clearly representing the Conservative Party. So I don't quite know why Steve is spending all his time not giving way to his inner Conservative.
It's a good question, Steve Radford. What's the answer?
Because on social policies, the Liberal Party is in favour of redistribution of wealth to help the lower paid, which is not a Conservative agenda that's being delivered. And Nick knows that. There's some things where we're going to agree and there's some things we're going to disagree on. I personally think one of the good positive things with the Lib Dem influence of the last coalition was raising tax thresholds and trying to simplify the taxation. I would like to see that go further. I'd like us to have more help for the low paid. And unlike the Liberal Democrats, we've got a policy on taxing inheritances, which are a source of great inequality in British society, and using that to pay for the tuition fees that he said he was going to abolish. So there are differences where I agree with the Lib Dems, and there's differences and similarities where I agree with the Conservatives. But it doesn't stop me being a Liberal, and doesn't mean I'm going to join Tony Blair's Centre Party.
And how would you tax inheritance?
Well, I think you could get rid of all the exemptions over virtually most of the people who inherit wealth absolutely pay no tax at all. If we got rid of the exemptions, we could apply a modest rate of inheritance tax, and then we could fund start-up business grants, and we could fund tuition fees. We could use the capital of one.
Well, you couldn't fund tuition fees out of changes to the inheritance tax. It doesn't bring that much in.
Oh, you look at the absolute substantial amount of monies that don't pay any inheritance at all. I think it would make a great step towards funding tuition fees, or at least modifying them as they are.
All right, Steve Radford of the Liberal Party from Merseyside. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.